So with micro-learning, it's one action item. Like if you have a fan page, move on to step 2. If you don't have a fan page, here's how you set up a fan page. Go do it. Don't go into step 2 until you completed it. So you watch the video, you might have a couple of quiz questions to make sure that you understand the key takeaway points, and then the actual action item. But basically, you're just teaching them how to get one step closer to what the end result is supposed to be.
Welcome to the Paid to Create podcast, where we dig into the secret strategies of successful creators making a lucrative living. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I just have to tell you about Kartra, the marketing platform that has seriously transformed my business. You know how running a business can be insanely time consuming, right? Well, Kartra has been a game changer for me. It's honestly like having an entire marketing team in my pocket. And what I love most is that it automates all the tedious daily tasks for me, from marketing to sales to even customer experience. I can't believe how much time and energy I've saved since I started using it. And get this. With Kartra, I can create websites, funnels, courses, membership sites, email campaigns, calendars, surveys, you name it. It's made managing my business so much simpler and more affordable. Honestly, I can't recommend Kartra enough. If you're curious, head to paidtocreatepodcast.com/Kartra to start your trial. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Welcome everybody to today's episode of Paid to Create Podcast. I'm AJ Roberts and I'm going to be interviewing extraordinary serial entrepreneur Jeff Sherman. I've known Jeff forever. His entrepreneurial journey began back in the fitness industry, similar to mine, in 2001, and he's since explored various domains such as software creation, marketing, and education. He's built several successful gyms, launched information products, and he's founded his own marketing agency. His latest venture, New Move, is an innovative platform that gamifies online learning, marketing, education, making education more engaging and action-focused. Really what he's doing is transforming the way we learn, play, and grow. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me back.
I'm glad to have you here, man. We've had a lot of conversations off air about this. Obviously, we've been friends for a long time. But kind of like, it's interesting, you started in fitness, you're in software like similar to me, specifically really around gamification. I'd love to, before we dive into gamification, just kind of that journey, like how did you end up here from, basically owning a gym?
Yeah, for sure. So I started my gym and then didn't have any clue how to grow it. And I'm just hustling, passing out flyers, whatever. And that's when I went to my first marketing event, signed up for a fitness franchise, turned my gym into a fitness boot camp, because that way I'm training like hundreds of people instead of at a time, instead of just one-on-one or one-on-5. Joined an info group mastermind, started a soccer conditioning program, and all the skills back then, it was like 2007, 2008. People weren't using internet marketing skills for offline marketing for whatever reason. So I learned all these internet marketing skills for my soccer program, like SEO and, how to leverage like press releases and all this other stuff. And I started applying it to my offline business and just kind of started blowing up. I had like every listing on the first page of Google for Baltimore Fitness, Baltimore gyms. I had my YouTube video, my Facebook page at the time would rank, and I had a press release. Normally like press release for fitness, what might last like, 2 minutes or 30 seconds, depending on the keywords, but for local, it would stay on there for months because nobody else was writing a press release about fitness. So I was having, some of these other big box gym owners and stuff. They see me at Starbucks and trying to hire me, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. So at events, people would start coming up to me, asking me how I'm doing this stuff or whatever. So you were our first, project manager and affiliate manager for our, me and Justin Blum. We did our first project called Bootcamp Underground, teaching people exactly what we were doing back then. And that's how that started. And we were teaching people how to do it. They started screwing it up, so then we're like, let us do it for you. So we started the agency. Then I had a need in my own gym for software because I couldn't hold my clients. When I had like 300 members, I couldn't hold them accountable to their weight and fat loss goals, which was one of our main selling points, is that you're still getting the same level of accountability as you would with a personal trainer, but on a group scale and at half the price or a quarter of the price. So I created Fit Clients, my first software that I created, and that's when I partnered with Bedros Keuilian for that. And then we just grew the agency and the software from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think that one of the things that so many entrepreneurs have in common is that when you look back, like the threads that tie everything together, it's like really there's a need for something, right? And whether that's a level of service or whether that's, a way to systematize so that you're not crazy, doing all of these things yourself, it kind of leads you to, okay, how do we automate this? Or how do we create a system that like basically automates the process to get the same result over and over again. And it's interesting because like so many gyms even today aren't using offline, like online strategies for their business. And so many businesses, small businesses, you know, they're still companies that like their website's basically a brochure, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, one of the things I think that is unique is how, with New Move, essentially what you realized was with information products as well, consumption is huge. People will purchase stuff, and they'll purchase a lot of stuff. And the saying is, if a book buyer is a book buyer. So like if you're launching a book, you want to go sell it to other people who've purchased a book on the same topic before, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a big thing. But you notice that there's very few people who were actually completing courses, right? And there's a lot of jokes around that about like 80% of people don't even open whatever it is they purchase, let alone go through it. And then out of those that do, maybe 5% do anything with it, right? And I know that was a big pain point for you. So like, what led you to gamification? Was it looking for that solution on how to get more people to take the action, to stick to their programs and those kind of things?
Yeah, because so for us, we had like a whole suite of products and services, right? So we had our agency, we were doing mastermind consulting, like live workshops. We were doing like done with you workshops where they would come, and by the time they were done, their Facebook ads would be live. We're teaching them how to set up their their ads, stuff like that, and we turned that into a course. So it was like a $2,000 course. That way people didn't have to fly out to our to our event or whatever. And then what we started noticing was like 9 out of 10 people that were joining our high level like mastermind or coming to like the live events had completed the course, but only 17% on a $2,000 course were finishing. So I was like, if we can get more people to finish the course, we can get more people, into our mastermind, more people to show up to our workshops, more because like, because when they're finishing, they're getting a result, right? Because like it was still designed to have their Facebook ads live by the time they were done the course. We still made it to where they learn a little bit. We still were implementing micro learning, which a lot of people still don't. They still have hour and a half modules. Like people consume an hour and they're like, where do I go now? Like I'm overwhelmed. Like as like 22 action items in an hour and a half, and I don't know where to start. So I'll just go and watch the next one and figure it out later. And then when they get to the end of the course or even end of a book, they're really excited about what they learned, but they have no idea how to start. So then they go get another course, or they go get another book, so they start feeling good again, because like the overwhelm is too much for them, and they don't what they call like paralysis by analysis type thing. So they don't actually do anything. They just keep consuming.
Yeah, it's that. I think we're all guilty of it, right? And especially myself. I look at my bookshelf. I take some pride. Oh, I got 10 books on this topic. But in reality, like, did I need 10 books? Because like probably 99% of the books cross over, right? And so that's, like you say, is really key, is that action item. And oftentimes you do get to an end of a module or something, and like you're so eager to learn the next one that you don't stop and implement. And a lot of people would be better to stop and take a month to implement than to move on. Explain the concept of micro learning, because you mentioned there obviously like there's an hour and a half video, 22 things, but like what is micro learning, and how can people start up using that with their own courses to just increase consumption and action just from that?
Yeah, for sure. Like obviously nowadays attention spans are the lowest they've ever been. That's why shorts are so popular and get the most views, right? Because they're 30 seconds or whatever. So it's the same thing when you go to learn. If I go to hit play on the video and I see it says 68 minutes, and I'm like, man, lunch is in like 20 minutes. I don't have time to do that right now, so I won't. They just stop, right? I'll come back to it later. But they're never going to have 68 minutes to sit there and watch the whole thing. And then if they do suffer through it, you're going to have more than one action item over an hour. Probably going to have 7. And they might be taking notes, and they might be learning and they learn the first thing, like, oh man, when I do that, it's going to be awesome, and they get excited. Then the second thing, and then the third thing, and then eventually it starts like they can't keep track of it all, and they start getting overwhelmed, and again, they do nothing. So with micro learning, it's one action item. Like, if you were going to, let's just go back to setting up Facebook ads. Like, first thing is you have to have a fan page. If you have a fan page, move on to step 2. If you don't have a fan page, here's how you set up a fan page. Go do it. Don't go into step 2 until you completed it. So you watch the video. They might have a couple of quiz questions to make sure they understand the key takeaway points, and then the actual action item. So, we try to keep videos. Sometimes you have to, explain more about, but it's still just one action item. So, so it could be anywhere from a minute and a half up to 10, 12 minutes, depending on how complicated it is that one thing is to do. But basically, you're just teaching them how to get one step closer to what the end result is supposed to be.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is I think it's like a complete mind shift for most course creators and online educators. And the reason I say that is because oftentimes when you sit down and create your outline, you're so worried about including everything that you know, you forget that the actual most important thing is that someone gets a result from what they're doing. And you mentioned earlier, you noticed this because those that were completing it were moving on to your high level coaching and masterminds. Those who weren't would disappear, which meant you had to go find a new client, right? And I always say, like, if you've been in business for long enough, like, you shouldn't be searching for where your next client is going to come from, right? Your own clients should be, you know, not only helping your business grow through additional monetization, but bringing new people in through their own actions. And it's interesting because I think the future with the way things are going, like, really, unless you get an outcome, right? Like, the information you're learning is going to become almost useless, and you're not even going to be able to charge for it because it's pretty much out there everywhere. So it's the ability, the coaching accountability side of the knowledge industry, the expert industry, which is really gonna make or break people, right? Can you get people to do what you're saying? And is what you're saying actually work? And we're gonna find out, because you're not gonna be able to count on people not doing it anymore, right? So you're gonna be exposed if what you're teaching isn't actually working. That said, I could still, with micro content, sit and watch 22 videos that are 5 minutes each, right? How do we prevent people from that? Like you mentioned a little bit with quizzes and things like that, but what aspects gets them to create action versus just rewards them to consume the content?
Well, with my platform that we created, the last step is the action item. So say in one of our self-help games, it's called Limitless. One of the levels is a run, walk, or crawl 2 miles. You have 24 hours, just go do it. Most entrepreneurs say they're too busy. It's one of the first things they put off is their health and fitness. So you just have to go out, run, walk, or crawl 2 miles. You can either do a map my run screenshot to prove that you did it, or you can just, when you're all sweaty, you take a video, like, hey, I just finished the run, walk, crawl, level. I feel great. I'm gonna start, implementing this into my, my weekly routine, 2 or 3 times a week or whatever. And all right, see you guys on the next level. You submit that so everybody can see. So that's proof that you actually took action. It could be filling out a worksheet. It could be, a screenshot. It could be a video. Whatever the course owner or the game owner wants to require of them to prove that they took action and learned what it is that they were learning.
And I assume they can't move forward until.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's almost that. Yeah, my buddy Simon Lovell, he was on one of the early podcasts we did, but he's built that into a lot of what he does, where it's like you get locked out if you don't, like, you have to do the homework, and if you don't do the homework, you get locked out. You mentioned them posting that. Is that going to a community? Is there a community aspect to this?
So the three things that I learned to get people all the way through, the content is, community, collaboration, and then incentives. So we incorporate all three of those. Incentives is more of your gaming elements. Community is more like a Facebook group, because what's the one thing every course owner out there offers as a bonus? Access to our exclusive Facebook group, right? Yeah. So because they see the value in community. But what happens, what we notice with our own Facebook communities is that people will ask a question in there, and like half the people in there will be like, that's in module 3, you didn't do that? If you did module 3, you would already know the answer. Like, they wouldn't log into the course and learn it themselves. They wanted a shortcut, so they'd ask people in the group, for the answers and stuff. So we just took the Facebook group and put it into the platform. So we have a timeline. You can DM each other in there. You can create DM groups inside so that people can collaborate for different things. You can go live in the timeline inside the actual platform. So you're getting all that engagement, and everything's transparent. When you take a normal course, you don't know if you're the only one taking the course. You don't know if there's 1,000 people taking the course. It's very static. And if you take the quiz, you don't know if anybody sees the answer or cares about the answer. Like, there's nothing, right? So if you stop taking the course, is anybody going to call you? Is anybody going to say, hey, what happened? Like, there's no accountability in most courses, right? So we've incorporated all that in there as well. So you actually see other people's answers, and it's good and bad. Some people are pretty shy, but it also takes away the creative burden, right? Because if I ask you, to answer something, and everybody's going to see it, you might be like, it's like, I'm going to make sure I have the right answer. But they see 30 other examples right in front of them. They're like, that sounds like what I would say, and they'll just like.
Gotcha.
Put it in there, which is cool. They're still learning, and they're seeing the other examples, and they might get a different perspective from somebody else's answer or whatever. So
yeah, do you find that community aspect in some ways can create like almost competition for different people to like? I'm thinking like, there's going to always be that person who wants to give the best answer, and there's going to be the person who is looking at, well, who started this course around the same time as me? Like, what are they achieving? Like, can I top what they're doing? Like, do you find that's a piece of this?
Well, that's part of it. We have a built-in leaderboard.
Okay.
So we have like a 7-day leaderboard, a 30-day leaderboard, then a lifetime leaderboard. Because if you log in your module 1 and you see the person at the top of the leaderboard has 3,000 points, and you're only getting 10 points per thing, you're like, I'm never going to get to the level. I'm never going to be the top, right? So, but if you look at the 7-day leaderboard, you're like, oh, they only got 35, 40 points. I can get there in like 3 or 4 days. I'm gonna hustle and try to get to the top of the 7-day leaderboard. When you get to day 8, you're looking out to the 30-day leaderboard. Okay, I can get to the top of the 30-day leaderboard, and then after that would be like the lifetime one. So, that's the whole point is, creating competition, because as human beings, as my late business partner used to say, is like we weren't born for competition, we were born from competition. It was like a 1 billion person race and to the death, and you won.
That's a great point. I'm thinking about like you've mentioned several things, but like people listening, it's like really thinking about, and this is something that like I've been hopping on a lot recently. Most people think the customer journey ends at the sale, which is hilarious because the word customer doesn't start until there is a sale. So customer journey really is prospect journey. And then what's the customer journey, right? And so if they've purchased something, the journey should be for them to use that thing and to get the result that they were promised, right? That's not only going to help you, but it's going to help them. And when you look at it, most people think delivering the course is, living up to the promise, right? And what when you get into what you're talking about, I hope people are realizing like, okay, the course is a component of the course, right? The educational material is a component of the course. You also have to have the actionable material, right? And that's what's going to separate you moving forward, especially with AI and things like that. Like I can just ask it, like I don't need to buy a course necessarily, right? Yeah. But like, if I'm just consuming and then someone comes along and says, oh, not only will you learn, but you'll also do this.
Yeah, you develop a skill as you go through it.
Yeah, and
with other people.
Yeah, and you have like 93% people who purchase this end up with like higher level clients because of completion rates or whatever the stats are. But like those are powerful, right? And so you've got to look at that. Like how do you actually get them to take action? What action items do you want them to take and what those are? Then you've got the community aspect so that they get to be on this quest with other people, right? And I think that shared experience is huge in today's world.
No, for sure. I mean, look at like if I put out an hour video teaching about a topic, you probably aren't going to sit down and watch it. But I mean, as you know, webinars it's an event. You're there, you can see there's like, hey, we have 135 people on this event, on this webinar. They feel like they're there with somebody, with other people, experiencing it together. So they're, they don't want to miss out, right? It's like, oh man, my friend's gonna be on this webinar too, even though they're not even in the same state, because they're gonna ask you questions about it later. Hey, did you see that one part about the webinar or whatever? Like, no, I missed it. Oh, you should have been on there. So there's all that. There's fear of missing out from an event rather than it's an hour video they can watch anytime. Even though there's a replay, if you look at the replay rates, nobody watches a replay.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point because we've tested, just a video on a page versus a video inside a webinar room, whether it's live or automated, but at a specific time, right? That's the key is
with other people on there at the same time live. So even when if it's automated, it's still an event.
Exactly, because it's live. And hands down, the video on the page loses to the webinar or the event environment, right? But also, like, if you think about TV shows, right? Like, people have watch parties. Well, why? Like, you literally could, once it's released, you can watch it anytime. And like, if you have Netflix, they'll drop 12 episodes all at once. But it's because they want to be able to watch it and discuss it immediately, be the first to go to Facebook and there's so much around that, that we don't necessarily need to always understand it just to know that it works. So we have the community aspect that really helps with that. And then you briefly touched on the reward component. How does that factor into people actually wanting to take action?
Yeah, so I mean, incentives are everything. Like that's one of the main reasons. It's like pleasure or pain. Like, if you're at your job, you're motivated by getting a promotion, but you're also motivated by not getting fired, right? Probably more motivated by not getting fired. More people do what they have to do to not get fired. So both are incentives, positive and negative incentives. So you want to, incentivize as much as possible. Even Elon Musk, I use this quote all the time. He's like, the more that you can gamify, like learning, the better. The more that you can incentivize, the better. So we've incentivized, everything we possibly could. When you make your first comment, you're going to get your first comment badge. The first time you like somebody, post or whatever, you're going to get a like badge. When you finish a level, you're going to get a level badge. When you finish a stage, you're going to get the stage badge. But you can also earn like tangible items. You can give away a water bottle. You can give away a hat, T-shirt, a journal. You can give away digital products. You can get access to exclusive live training. We've also done streak badges. So if you play for 7 days in a row, then you become a bronze medal player. If you play for 14 days in a row, then you become a silver medal player, and then 21 days in a row, a gold medal player. And that's powerful just by itself. But if you put something behind that, it makes it even more powerful. Hey, for gold medal players, you're going to get 20% off our next event or whatever. Or for gold medal players this week, we're doing a special live bonus training on how to do X, Y, Z. So you can put more power behind the actual things that they're earning. And same with with actual tangible prizes, rather than just being like a journal. One of the things I learned also from my late business partner, he was really good at this, is putting the story and meaning behind the journal. So that way they're not just getting a notebook. He talks about like the greats like Tesla, and Da Vinci. He's like, their journals are being used hundreds of years later. Like, who's going to be talking about your journal? Who's going to be using your journal 100 years later? So now it's not just a journal, it's like your legacy, like you're writing in,
becomes like a sacred,
right? Exactly.
Sacred document. Yeah.
Exactly. So the more that you can incentivize, the better. Even with that limitless game at the end, we were giving away like Movado watches, so but they had to come to an event and we presented to them, and it's like it ended up, the watches were like $350, $400. It was a $2,000 course, but only like 41% were completing it. So it was like, we were getting a discount because everybody was paying the $2,000 expecting to get the watch, and then only 41% finished. And then out of that 41%, only a certain amount would come to the workshops to actually present them. But people see us giving these custom watches out with the Limitless logo in there, that incentivizes, that motivates other people to at least try.
Yeah. What's interesting is like one of the dirty secrets of information marketing or course industry, right, is that like very few people make a living off of the course, right? It really is a customer acquisition tool, and if you can break even on it, fantastic. So the reason I share that is you mentioned earlier, like the $2,000 price point. Like if someone pays $2,000 for something and you can give that $2,000 back to them throughout the course, but they get the result that you promised, I guarantee you the lifetime value of that person skyrockets, but also the referrals they'll bring and things like that. And so sometimes you have to think beyond the original transaction. And I think that as we move forward, the concept of 1,000 true fans, and for those that are not familiar with that, just Google search it. That could be a whole podcast on itself. But the concept of 1,000 true fans is going to become more and more true, where they're going to have these essential micro tribes, and it might not even be 1,000. We might be getting down to like 100, 150. Go back to Dunbar's law. I think that's what it is. But essentially, like the reality is like it's the impact that you can make that will fuel your finances moving forward, right? And if you're not making that impact on that first impression, which a lot of the times these courses are the first indoctrination into you and everything you stand for. Imagine someone gives you their money, they're all enthusiastic, you have something of value to help them, but then they don't do it, right? Like that person now will go search for somebody else to plug into, right? Exactly. Where they could have been a lifetime customer for yourself. So seems like these things are not, they're called gamification and it sounds fun, but in reality, all we're doing is holding their hand and using things that naturally get them to take more action versus trying to just like explain to them like, hey, if you do this, it's going to, it's going to change your life. Like, okay, like we know the power of this, so we're actually going to incentivize you to do it until you get enough momentum where you're actually now coming to us and saying, okay, what else do you have? Because I think you mentioned this before when we talked at one of the masterminds we were at. Like people will take the courses and then say like I've never implemented this much stuff, or I've never bought something and then at the end of it been like, oh my gosh, I did all of it, right? Yeah. It's like it's transformational in that sense.
No, for sure. Yeah, and then like so you have like the reward incentives. We also have entertainment incentives. So like just piques curiosity, right? Like in copy, curiosity is one of the stronger ways to get people to take action, right? So like when they complete a level, it'll say congratulations, big certificate will come up and the confetti will fall through the screen. Then the next level when they do it, it might be like the strong arm emoji. The next one might be like the cool face emoji. So like what's gonna fall through the screen next? So it's like they're like force multipliers. It's like a little bump, right? Like because it's piquing their curiosity. So that'd be under like entertainment incentives. And then the last one, which is usually the most powerful one, is emotional and incentives. As a human being, what do you like to hear the most? good job, AJ, right? So that's something that you can't
Praise and recognition.
With AI, you can probably do it now, but you do have to facilitate. Like if you look at the Facebook groups that are out there that are really good, it's all about the facilitator. If they're in there like, awesome job, and, oh man, that's so cool, or so, or join me in congratulating our newest members, or whatever. Like anytime you can just say somebody's name and good job, you're gonna get a boost out of them. They're gonna want to get that again, and then somebody else is gonna be like, man, they never said my name and good job, so I got to do something to get him to say my name and good job. So they're going to start, helping other people out more. Whatever you said good job for to the other person, you're going to see a lot of other people starting to do the same action because of that. So
yeah, I learned that on stages, right? Like when you would put people on stages, everybody else that knew you would be like, hey, how come he got on stage? Like, how do I get it? Like, it's just because like they want that recognition, right? And when there's an audience, they also there's that level of like leadership that comes through. Like they want, like most people want, like who are lifetime learners, I call them, like they want to be leaders. They want to showcase that they're a man of action or a woman of action. It's like one of those things where they don't want to sit at the back of the class in this instance, because we're not talking about just some small little thing. We're talking about stuff that, like, whether it's in fitness or finances or their relationships or their spirituality, their faith, like talking about things that like literally shift them and generationally shift their families,
Yep.
And so like if you put that on your shoulders and you think, okay, like they're buying this for this purpose and this could change the entire trajectory of the history for this human, like that's a weight on your shoulders as a creator. And now to be able to leverage all of these things, right? You're like, it's not like you're every day going, good job. Like you're not in there. And I think that's the thing that like becomes overwhelming for creators, is that like they want to do all of this stuff, but when they realize the time it takes, and that's where you have to bring in automation and things like that. And like you said, like look for all those things. And like you see this with social media all the time. Like all of a sudden there's like new emojis that you can respond to people with. So even that side of stuff, like how is your community interacting, and can they bring each other up? Do you have natural leaders in the community? Like, are they showcased? Like these are all things to think about, because like you said, just like your community is actually driving completion too, right? Because people are looking at them and going like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And good or bad, that's one thing like with coaching programs and masterminds that fires me up, is like I meet somebody and I think to myself, man, like they're really not more intelligent than me. They're not like, they don't have a better life than me. Like, so like, but they've done this, like, oh, I can do it too. And I've always said that, like, if you got to shift your reality, right? And I think that's, once you see a new reality, you can go, oh, okay. So like when they're in this group, like the course, if they're isolated, they're at home and they're just going through the course, watching the videos, and maybe you've put a workbook together because you've gone a little bit further than most people, and they're writing their answers down, but there's no one to compare to. There's nobody to check answers against. Like they don't have a guide, right?
Yep.
You're building this all in, but like from a creative standpoint, like they're not having to do much,
exactly,
right? Like from
they don't have to do much more than what they've already would have done.
Yeah. So these like you said, these are subtle nudges that play to human nature that allows them to progress through that. Is there any examples of courses on New Move that like you're super proud of, that like you could walk through, so that like those listening who kind of trying to piece this all together kind of can visualize it? Yeah,
I mean, like the one I keep referring to is Mark Hoverson, who was my founding member of New Move. He passed away in like 2018, 2019. Can't remember exactly what year. His game was limitless. He was a youth minister. In the beginning, was called Emerging Entrepreneurs. A lot of his students are doing like $10 to $100 million a month in some of their groups and some of their products and services. And one guy's in solar and he's doing a ton of money. These guys were all like millennial young men. He was a youth pastor, and they changed the name to Limitless, and then he opened it up to everybody. But that's a really good. That's probably I still think it's the best, because he's the one that pretty much taught me all about it, and how to build games, and what makes them so powerful. Creating that storyline, creating a map, so they're going through like a journey. So yeah, he was big on like creating like a map so they could see what their journey is going to look like, and he would give like creative names of different valleys of this, or the woods of this, or he would name everything really, really cool. Kind of like a video game. You always see like a map that you have to go through, like Legend of Zelda or something. Mm-hmm. So he's done a really good job at that. And since then it's like me teaching or consulting somebody to build a game, and then me teaching somebody else. But we have a lot of really cool games on there. We have one that's called Pro Shooter Game. It's a handgun course. Her name is Alpha Lena is her shooting name. She's like the female John Wick. She's out in Vegas. That's a cool game. We have another one, Epic Author. It's like how to profit from your book idea without writing a single word. So he's teaching you how to, you come up with the title, you come up with everything, and you're getting like podcasts and speaking gigs and all this stuff before you even write a single word. And it's like his whole thing is like your book's already out there. You just have to make sure you frame it the right way. So we want to make sure by putting out the title and getting booked on podcasts, talking about the topic, and then eventually writing the book. Writing the right book is what it's about. It's a really good one. And then another one, we took a 5-day challenge and turned it into a game. It's called the Tag Challenge, Appointment Generator Challenge. That's a good one. So we have a bunch of any kind of how-to is a perfect fit. Anything that you learn like linearly, like step 1, step 2, step 3 is a perfect fit. We do have a solar company that uses it for like employee training, like doing new employee training, and then they use it for their sales teams as well.
That's a unique way to use it, yeah. So it sounds like, regardless of whether you have a course or you're thinking about creating a course, you really need to think of it in terms of you mentioned the map. I love that, right? Like that's the quest. Like where's point A, where's point B? If we're going to set a GPS, like to go across the United States, right? We're going to go through a whole bunch of states, a whole bunch of towns, and really that's what we're trying to, like if you're going to use gamification, you really need to look at breaking your content down into those micro steps, as you mentioned. Yeah. What is, like, let's say I have a course right now, and I do want to gamify it. What is that process? Because obviously it's probably not in that linear format right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you created a course, you probably created somewhat of a linear format probably. But in gamification, what we want to do is get them to take a little bit of action and get a result right away, and feel good about it. So like in the pro shooter game, the first one is like, creating your shooter name, because everybody that's pro shooter has like their shooter name or whatever. And then she was just like, if you can't come up with one, you think people think it's stupid or whatever, then you know how people do, like, what's your stripper name? It's like, what was the name of your first dog and the shirt you grew up on or whatever. So we did something like that just so they could have something, But they put the name in there, and then they get their 10 points, and then they already got their first level badge. They got, they feel good. Like, oh man, I'm already on the leaderboard. And then the next one is like, you ask a little bit more and ask a little bit more. Where you get to like level 35 or 40, it might take you a full day or 2 or 3 days, to finish it. In Limitless, one of the ones is called like $1 million day. And so what you do is you list out everything that you've been putting off. So like, going to the dentist or cleaning out your garage or, making all these phone calls for work or following up with this or, anything you just keep procrastinating on. You make this huge list, and then you have to go and collaborate. You have to find like we call like a big, like in fraternities, it's like you have like a big brother, big sister, but they're going to hold you accountable for that $1 million day. And then you just go through and just knock everything out. And it's like, you get like $1 million worth of, in a day of, stuff done kind of thing. But it takes like 2 or 3 days. You have to find that accountability partner. You have to write everything out. Then you actually have to do the $1 million day.
Yeah. But you said something there that I think is very interesting. I've never thought of it like this before, right? Like when you said, when you create a course, oftentimes, or I just sent my first draft of the book off to the editor. Like, you don't think of it in terms of like the length of action for each item, and I think that's key, because what you're leveraging there is momentum, right? If the first item you ask them to takes them 3 days, they're probably never going to do it, right?
Stop, yeah.
But if it takes them 10 minutes or 30 minutes max, like it's vastly different. And the cool thing is like, obviously I'm a big fan of AI. I'm sure you are too. Yep. But like the cool thing is like you could have them immediately, like for like you said, for name ideas, like you use the whole like stripper in the street, right? Like you can do this stuff now where you can say, hey, go to ChatGTP and ask it for 10 name ideas. Insert your idea, your topic, like what you want it to do, and generate names, right? So you can give them tasks that take 10 minutes. Yep. And I think that's a really unique way to think about it, because if you're trying to get somebody to, we'll use building a website for an example. If you're trying to get someone to write an entire sales letter,
that's what I want to create a game that by the time you're done playing the game, your sales letter's written.
Right, but you start saying, okay, like we're going to write this whole thing, versus like we're going to brainstorm some headlines, right?
Exactly.
Like, and I think that is a unique, and I think why it's so important, and the reason I was excited to have you on today is because like the future of course creators, right? The future of online learning is dramatically going to change. And these are the kind of things that I think give people the advantage, because if they can start thinking now, like, okay, like I've got all of this material, but what's the thing they can do to get the fastest result? And you may not always just be the fastest. It may be the one that has the biggest ROI to them, right? Like with whatever it is, right? Because like you said, you mentioned micro learning. This is kind of micro action. And if we can get them to take the mini action, then we can add just a little bit. By the end of it, there's such a force behind them, such an energy behind them, because everything they've done has built to this. They'll spend the 3 days doing the task because it's not the first thing you've asked for. It's come 37 lessons later.
No, for sure, and you're just conditioning them to take action, so they're just getting more and more disciplined as they go through. I mean, it's a persuasion thing too. Like they use it for like POW camps and stuff. Like, that's how you get like POWs that are like writing these long letters against their country or whatever, because they don't just ask them to write the letter. They'll just ask them just tell us what your name is and we'll feed you. Tell us what your name is and what country you're from the next day. Tell us what your name is, what your country is from, and then tell us what one thing you don't like about your country. And eventually, by the time they're done, they're giving this big statement about how horrible their country is, and they don't even believe, because it's like one thing at a time, and then they're like, well, I already said that, I might as well, just add one more thing to it. But obviously, that's a bad way to use it, and a positive way, is the same thing. Like I've already did all this, so I might as well just do a little bit more to get closer to my goal. And the good thing about like the platform is like you can see where that drop off is, because it's like 30% got to here, like at level 1 you got 90% completion rate, level 2 you got 87% completion rate, level 3 you got 67. Like, wait a second, why is there a 20% drop? So like in one of the first games that I created for myself, I licensed Craig's perfect day formula, and we created like Play Perfect Life, and we put some of his stuff in there, and one of them was like, no matter where you are in your career, your life, whatever, you haven't gotten there by yourself, so it's really important to thank people, so you need to write us a letter and mail it to somebody that's helped you get to where you are today. It's like crickets. Like nobody's like, what? Like, nobody mails stuff anymore.
They're like, where do I get a stamp and an envelope
exactly.
from?
I gotta stop and buy a stamp. I gotta go buy an envelope. So we change it to text somebody, and goes right off. Everybody starts. Everybody keeps moving along again. So we asked too soon. Maybe if we put it later in the game, they probably would have did it. But it was like the 3rd level or something like that. It was just way too big of an ask too soon.
I like the fact that you're going back after it's launched and using that data to improve it, right? Because like in Kartra, people can see, the consumption from their customers. They can see where they are percentage-wise. You can set triggers. You can do those kind of things. But I like the way you're using it, where it's like, okay, we need to change this. Like, it's too hard for people to do. And I think that's like, when you're looking at KPI, when you're looking at metrics of success, like if you're a course creator, like obviously you're looking at, client acquisition, you're looking at revenue, and you're going, oh yeah, the company's growing. But this side of things, like your company's growing, but is it growing because you have a great product that people are using, or is it growing because you got really good at marketing and sales, right? Because after a while, you're gonna run out of people to sell to. Like even the biggest things, like you see on Shark Tank and those products that come in, they get in Walmart, like they're generic, they're huge. They got like 1 to 2 years shelf life, and then they're on the discount for 75% off, because no matter whether you have a small audience or an absolutely gigantic, there is a level at which you're going to tap out of, and I would rather much be on the side of like creating incredible customers that want to continue to do business with you, right? Because then you don't have to go get so many on those front, but using that data on the back end and saying like, even now, like even if they don't have gamification, they could be looking at this.
Oh, for sure.
Even from like, from a video standpoint, like what's the completion rate of the video? Where's the drop off? Like what are the things? Like, and I think that people are so scared of not putting enough information in that they put too much information in. And then, they expect people, like a podcast, people are in their car. Like most people aren't sitting down in their home in front of their computer and say, okay, now I'm going to watch a podcast. Yeah. They're consuming it while they're moving, right? They're consuming it in the car. They're consuming it like, while they're walking. And so like when you take these things into factors, like they'll listen to stuff longer than they would if they were watching a course or watching a video. Yeah. And I think that's important to understand. Like if someone's purchased a course, they're probably going to take the time to sit, whether it's on the desktop or whether it's on the mobile. Nowadays, everybody uses their mobile for everything. But if they're not getting through that first video, and they're not taking action on that first action item, like we have a problem, Houston, right? Because they're not getting to the, like you mentioned, 76 levels, right? And I think it's cool because I remember back when I was a kid playing Sonic the Hedgehog and like the levels and all of those things. And like, yeah, you do look for cheat codes, but at the end of the day, like you realize like, no, I got to do it, by myself. And I think that from a creative standpoint, like what you're sharing is invaluable and really important. From a user standpoint, and I'm leading you because I know the answer, but like from the completion rate, what is the difference that you have seen from just a regular course versus a course that is fully gamified?
Yeah, so from our own personal course, like statistics on a free course is like, it's about 1% that's going to finish on a free course. And like if you go to Udemy or some of the like top tier schools that give out free courses and stuff, people will register for them and not even open them, or look at the first thing and then not do it. So for ours was a $2,000 course. We were getting 17% completion rate before the gamification stuff. Once we added in the community, the collaboration, all the incentives, went from 17% to 41%. And that's just on the front end, because like for us, we were like, if somebody pays $2,000 for a course, and they don't finish it, it's that course. When they log in, they see it on their browser, their open tab, whatever. They're like, "There's my $2,000 sitting right there. Like, I'll get back to it at some point." And then they see a video of you marketing an event, and they're like, "I really don't want to spend the $4,000 or whatever to go to this workshop. I want to finish the course first," even though they're never going to finish the course, Because if they paid $2,000 and didn't get a result or a skill that's helping them generate more cash or generate more business, they're not going to come to an event. But if they get through your course and they actually have a new skill that they're excited about, they're showing their friends, or their ads are bringing people in, and then you run a workshop where they're like, "Man, if I got this from this, I'm going to get way more from that." It's like the next obvious step. You always want to create like the next obvious step. Like Apple, you're looking at your MacBook right now. It's like the perfect company to look at. Like I'm sure if you have an iPhone, you might have an Apple Watch. You probably have a MacBook. Probably have a couple of iPads. You have all these different Apple products because it's like the next Apple. If I have an iPhone, the next obvious step is to get an Apple Watch because like they go together, like they work together. Like the Apple Watch makes it, you don't have to have your phone on you anymore. You can just take your watch if you're riding your bike or working out. You got your music. You got, you don't miss any calls. So it's like the next obvious step is to get the next thing. And that's what you want to create.
Yeah, you mentioned something there that I think is very important, and that's that you actually limit your ability to move people or send people, however you want to say, but move people along that journey with you, right? If they buy something and they don't take action, it's as good as if they buy something and fail, right? Because ultimately their experience, like you said, like, well, I'm not going to do the event because I still have the course to go through, right? So it's actually stops them from giving you more money, or stops them from, joining the things that would actually help them even more, because in their mind, they're not ready yet, right?
But what it doesn't stop them from is buying your competitor's thing.
Yes, because they think
it's different.
It's different. They get those emotion. They get all that emotional, like dopamine release, everything when they purchase. They also think that maybe it's everybody, and we all do it. Even I do it. Even at the highest level, you're always looking for hacks and shortcuts. You're always looking for ways to like improve your morning routine, like improve your nutrition. You're constantly like. I remember when I came back to start competing again, I'm looking at like all of the new guys who are at the top, and I'm wanting to know how they train and And Dave Hoff, who is arguably the greatest lifter of all time, he's been at the top now for over a decade. Nobody can beat him. He just said like, "Hey, do you know how to train? Like, what are you doing? Just train the way we used to train." And I was asking him like, "What's changed?" He's like, "Nothing. Nothing's changed."
Yeah.
Like it's things like, yeah, you get new little tricks here and there, but like it's just the basics. And I think that's what's really, really key. But what's interesting is that I think if people think about this from the beginning, what they'll do is not only be able to create a course that's much more powerful, but actually have an easier time creating the course, because they won't be worried about like how much information I can get in. And that's one big thing I know you push a lot on. It's never about the consumption.
No, for sure. I mean, I learned this from Bedros, and if you go to the dentist and you have a tooth that's aching, right, and he's like, it's going to be $1,000. I can take 8 hours to extract a tooth and make you feel better, or I can do it in 5 minutes. Which one do you want? You just want the pain gone. I want the 5-minute one. I don't want to go through all the fluff. I don't want to sit there for 8 hours just because I want to get my value. So if I give you a 100-page manual on how to make $10,000 a day, if I give you a 2-page manual on how to make $10,000 a day, which one are you going to pick?
Yeah.
The 2-page one, right? Because you just want to make $10,000 a day. So the least
smart
amount.
people would.
I learned that from Kevin Nations too. He says the same thing. It's about what they're getting. It's not about how much. You might be able to sell more when you put like 25 bonuses or whatever, but that's only on the front end. Like if you get results for people, they'll be with you forever, right?
Yeah. Being a deep learner, that's sometimes hard to understand, because like I always want to know more about things, right? So there's always that. Like, okay, like, well, now I need to know, like, if I'm talking about this, then this goes with that. So then we start, you start building essentially down, but you forget that the reality is that like whatever reason they bought, right? Like let's say make money, because it's an easy one to use. Like I want to make 10,000 a month, right? That's all they need to learn is how to make 10,000 a month. They don't need to learn anything else. They don't need to learn how to scale to 20 million or, whatever. Like there may be a module at the end or something at the end that's like, beyond 10,000 a month that leads to the next thing. But the more specific you can be, the better. And it's crazy because we always have these examples, like you just mentioned the dentist, but like when you think about it, like specialists always charge way more, but everybody when they get into business is a generalist. Like they're like, well, who do you help? Well, I help these people and these people and these people and these. And a lot of that's out of fear, right? Because they don't see the pool for their audience. They don't have the reach for the specific niche or person that they want. And so they generalize to kind of fill the bucket, right? Because they're like, okay, I'm getting money from these people and these people. And they never realize that it's the specialization. And add to that what you mentioned is it's not only specialization but speed of implementation. And if you can shorten the gaps on those, like people would just keep paying you, because hypothetically, if they spent 2,000 and you teach them how to make 10, right? They've profited $8,000. Do you think they'll give you 10,000 for you to learn how to go from 10 to 100? Probably, right? So it's like you said, it's this micro learning, micro action that gives them more commitment to you, like makes them want to invest more money with you, versus if you ask them, up front for those large fees, they'll probably be like, no, I'm good. But once they get the result, the level of trust goes through the roof with you.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like any other relationship. I mean, you're married, so you know how it goes. Like, if you ask her to marry you on the first date, she's probably going to say no, right? But if we want to make it the next obvious steps.
She said yes, you should run the other way. Red flag warning, guys. Red flag.
You start dating, she has fun, she gets a result. Like we've been together, everything's good, she gets a result. You get a dog together, everything's good, you get a result. Next obvious step, just get married, of course. So don't even have to think about it. So it's just like anything else. Relationships are relationships, whether it's business, personal.
Yeah, I'm laughing because one of the guys I train with, I joking with him the other day. He says his girlfriend's birthday. I said, "You gonna propose?" And he's like, "Huh?" And I was like, "How long you been together?" He's like, 7 years. I go, "Bro, she is waiting. Like, I guarantee you, she is waiting. Like there is no way that she's like not ready for that. Like because anyone that puts up with anyone else for 7 years is probably good enough.
I think so.
Yeah. So that's a good point. And I think like people need to look at that, but that's a shift that I think needs to happen. Gamification helps this happen. But the shift that needs to happen is people need to see their customers as people and realize that like success really now is in the relationship business. Like, yes, marketing is important, sales is important. Like you need to learn how to do those. But like if you're not building relationships with your customers, then they will go to competitors, because that is becoming more and more something that keeps people loyal to the creator. Is the community.
Yeah, the sales and the marketing is kind of like, aesthetics, like how it looks, like attracts them initially. It's the loyalty, it's the results, it's the feeling comfortable, feeling safe, like to invest more with you. That's what keeps them around, long term.
Yeah. Where do you think the future of courses are going with gamification, like in AI and those kind of things? Like what, if we had to predict, it's hard to predict longer than like a year, but like moving forward, like what are the big things people should be looking at when it comes to these things?
I mean, it just depends on what you want AI to do for you. I mean, it can do all kinds of things. So, if you want it to interact, like me personally, I like to interact as much for real as I can, because then you're getting the feedback. You're learning what your customers like, what they don't like. You're involved in the relationship. It's not like, I've heard some comedian talking about how he had ChatGPT like write a birthday card or whatever. And he has no idea what was in it, and the girlfriend's like super happy about it, like, oh my gosh, this is like the nicest card ever. But he has no idea. Like, what does it say?
Hey, that's how I feel at Christmas when people open presents that my name are on.
Right. So
what do you get over there? Oh, it's from you. Oh, is it? Oh, okay, cool, great.
Exactly. So I think that would hurt you like long term, in business. But AI, like you were saying earlier, you could use it for them like as an assignment. Go to ChatGPT and do this and come back with your answer. Or people are using it to like create courses. Like you can create a whole course with AI right now. I actually wrote a book just to kind of see how it all worked. And it was good, but it wasn't personal. And I think that's the one thing that can't be replaced, as we know, is like you are the only you. So putting your story in there, your life experience, stuff like that can't be replaced. I think everything else probably will be.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've used it for, that as you're talking, I kind of like you mentioned, and it's not about the length, right? It's about the the depth, right? And sometimes you can say something way quicker than you do, right? Like in a podcast format, we're in conversation, but if we went back and like watched this whole thing, like we can edit it down to probably 10 minutes of like bullet point content,
Yep.
right? Which in this format wouldn't go over well usually, but I think one of the things that you could use it for very successfully is like, let's say you have videos and you're noticing your drop-off rates are at 50%, you know, you could take that script, dump it into ChatGTP and ask it to rewrite it, you know, as a simpler script, or like,
Yep.
you know, simplify it down, or take it like half it in length, but keep all the, you know, most important things. So you could use it to refine things.
Yeah, I've already been, when I was writing the book, I was using it that way. And because I would ask some topics or whatever that I wanted to write on, it would come out with like 3 pages. It's like, rewrite previous output with 50% more words. And then it would just give me fluff, you know, but it still made sense. You know, so you can use it that way, or you can be like, make it, you know, 30% funnier or quirkier, you know, and rewrite it in a different, you know, different tone. Yeah. So there's lots of ways that you can like prompt it to, you know, to fit whatever it is that you're trying to do.
I look at it really a lot as like a research like assistant, you know. So it's like you said, like if you wrote something and you go, okay, like I want to make this better, you can just ask like, how do I make this better? What should I include? And then you could say like, okay, great. Now let's come up with, like if it says, oh, it should have a quote. Okay, great. Give me 20 quotes by famous people who about this topic. Boom, there you go. You know, so it's like, it's one of those things where like if you interact with it, like you mentioned, it can make those changes. Obviously, at some point in the future, I'll probably just do all of that. Like, you know, you put it in, you just say like, you know, rewrite, and boom, you get what you want. But you know, that conversation back and forth, I think really helps. But I think in terms of like with the courses and things like that, you could even take it and say like let's say you have a course right now, and we'll use video because most people create video courses, right? Get that transcribed, put it in a ChatGTP, and they say from this create 2 to 3 action items that someone could do. So if you don't have the action items, now we can create the action.
Oh yeah,
items.
for sure. You can already use it that way. I mean, you can use it to outline. Like I try to use it to outline a book. It does a really good job, you know. So even if you just need it to help outline, you know, the course, like to kind of like just put all of your information in order, it can help you, you know, with that. It's just about like filling in the blanks with your own personal experiences, your own stories. If not, you're gonna have a very bland, you know, course. Like,
yeah, I think that's the key, right? It's like you're using it as an assistant, not as, you know, not as the final editor. What about bots? Are you guys using anything to interact with your community yet through these AI bots?
We have, but we've been looking into it. There are some other platforms that use it. They're not great yet because like they're cool the first. It's like autoresponders back in the day. The first time you get one, you're like, oh, thanks for thinking of me, and they didn't realize it went out to 100,000 other people. But then after the third one, you're like, wait a second, like I'm on a list, you know. So kind of the same thing right now with that is what I see is like the first couple of responses, they're like, oh, thank you know, it's cool. And after a while, you see the responses die off because they're like, okay, it's not, and nobody's talking to me. Yeah.
If you had to sum up like the ultimate gamification strategy for a creator, like what would be included in that? You know, like for those that are listening, I'm going to get into this. Like, what is it? The essentials? What is the, you know, the best thing they can do?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to those 3 things. Like I said, create the best community that you can, figure out a way to get them to collaborate. Because, again, my partner, the way he used to put it was like, you were born, you know, not for, but you know, in a competition, but you were born from collaboration. So collaboration is super important. People need feedback. They want to be part of something, want to be part of a team. So incorporating that in some way. The gaming elements, a lot of people are doing that. You get a little bit of a bump, you know, with badges and points and stuff like that, and likes button. You know, people don't realize that likes is gamification. Like how many likes did I get? How many views did I get? It's all gamification metrics. Like it measures up to like, did I do a good job or did people like what I did? You know, kind of thing. So, but that's not the most powerful part. The most powerful part is people feeling good and then learning a skill that's going to help change their life. You know, like you were saying before, that's the most important thing is getting them to actually become who they join, why they paid you the money, become that person, finish that journey, and you know, doing that however you can.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. Like I feel like we covered so much, and people are listening probably like so I wanted to end there because like we were talking about like action, so it's like, okay, like what are those things? And so
yeah, I mean, Facebook groups are super powerful because community is one of the most powerful things. People want to feel part of something. You know, like I said, collaboration, that's something that you can, without buying anything else, you can just go in there and put people in teams and have them do a task, you know. And then like the other stuff, the gaming elements, all the likes and the badges and the shares, like that's easy to add. It's facilitating and creating a culture of people that support each other on their journey. That's what you really want. So churches do a really good job of that. It's so hard to leave a church because you feel guilty to leave a church, right? Because it's like your second home. Like people are expecting you to show up. And if you don't, people are calling you. You know.
Well, there's a reason they say don't hang out with people who aren't in the church. Like, next thing you know, Monday night you're at Bible study. Wednesday night you're at a second service. Saturday you're at men's group. Sunday you're at church. So it's only like a couple of days out of the week. It's funny because they say the reason NFL is on so much is because people can't go from Sunday to Sunday. I said I must have learned that from the church.
Right.
What are some of the biggest mistakes people make when they try to gamify something?
Well, really, when it comes down like what we were talking about before, the micro learning, micro action, they ask too much too soon. It's kind of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make in relationships. You're asking for too much too soon without giving, without showing them, without building up their confidence, building up their discipline. That's usually, we'll see like a big drop off. We'll see like I said, level 1, like 96% completion rate. Level 2, 90, and then level 3, it's like 45. You're like, okay, something's in level, you're asking too much in level 3, or they're not, it's confusing, they're not getting it, the creative burden's too much, like they're afraid to be judged on their answer or something like that. So you have to go through and kind of just see like, why are people stopping right here? Is it taking up too much time? Are they don't know what the right answer is? There's not enough examples. The creative burden's too much. What is it? So if you can see the metrics and see where that's at, then it's easy fix. But we've been doing it so long now, we can kind of guide people, and while they're creating it, that they don't usually run into that too much.
What's cool is that, like, obviously I love the online course world, but like, we started talking about offline businesses. And if someone's like, if you're an offline business owner, right, like you're a gym owner, right, you probably have some gym owners, like you can gamify so much of that piece, like manually gamify, right? Like how many, like your first workout, like your 100th workout, like was it you who used to have like a T-shirt for a certain number of workouts or something? Yeah,
we had that too. We had gamification stuff in our boot camp. We had we had a big mural that said Wall of Fame, and one was like. I was at Fit Body Boot Camp, so it said like Fit Body Family, and after your 1 year anniversary, you get to sign with a magic marker on the wall. You become part of the building. You become part of the place. And then the other side is a goal getter. So anytime you reach any goal, you see somebody's name, it'd be like 5K, my first 5K, my first half marathon, my first mud run, or lost 100 pounds, or I lost 25 pounds, and the list would just go under, and they get to put it up on the wall. We did have a leaderboard for different who could do the most push-ups, or who could do the most sit-ups. We had different exercises or whatever. Fastest mile. So we had a leaderboard as well, but it was all manual, dry erase board, that had that all on there. And people loved it. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, all the ideas are popping. I'm like, oh, we should do this and we should do that. Like, we should. So I'm like,
you could also do like for other things. Like, you have 2 kids. I have a daughter. I want to create this game called. This is totally different than my platform. I have to recreate it, but I thought it'd be cool. It's like call it like Chore Wars, and you put in all the chores. It could be like done daily, or it could be done weekly, or done monthly, whatever how often it needs to be done. And it's like, you could open it up at different times, because maybe Tuesday's trash day. So Tuesday at midnight, that chore opens up. The first person to take it out, you could snap a picture, or you could just like go in there and take it. They steal the points, and then it's closed, and nobody else can do the trash cans because that's already out, and they got the points. It's like clean the bathroom, or do the dishes, or set up the table for dinner. So everybody's gonna be like racing to do to set up the table or whatever. And gamify it. You can be like, so whoever wins gets to pick where we go out to dinner after church on Sunday or whatever, or you get $25 bonus, or something.
Dude, I love that idea because you could do it as a family, but also if you could get all the kids across, like their friend groups and stuff, because getting kids to do chores is so difficult. Like they'll do some as long as you help them, but like on their own, and like they're, it seems to be, it's always like they feel like they're being punished. So if we could flip the script on that, it would probably be great. So I'm gonna push you off there to do that out. Is there anything else you want to share on the topic that we didn't touch yet?
No, we covered a lot, and if anybody else has any other questions, you can reach out to me on social, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, where on social can they get you?
At Jeff.Sherman on Instagram, probably the easiest place, or Jeff@newmove.com. You can check out New Move, and it's spelled NUMOVE.com, and you can check out the platform. But just reach out to me on Instagram.
Cool, powerful conversation. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys on the next episode of the Paid to Create podcast.
I just have to tell you about Kartra, the marketing platform that has seriously transformed my business. You know how running a business can be insanely time consuming, right? Well, Kartra has been a game changer for me. It's honestly like having an entire marketing team in my pocket. And what I love most is that it automates all the tedious daily tasks for me, from marketing to sales to even customer experience. I can't believe how much time and energy I've saved since I started using it. And get this. With Kartra, I can create websites, funnels, courses, membership sites, email campaigns, calendars, surveys, you name it. It's made managing my business so much simpler and more affordable. Honestly, I can't recommend Kartra enough. If you're curious, head to paidtocreatepodcast.com/Kartra to start your trial. Trust me, you won't regret it.